An unanimous vote on Charleston City Council last night will bring down the John C. Calhoun statue later today. I sat down one-on-one with Peter Shahid, one of the Charleston City Council members, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Peter Shahid, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
I've never done a Quintin close-up by Zoom with you before. This is exciting.
Yeah, and I'm really down the street, not that far from you.
I can see your background, yes, I know.
Well, let me jump right into it. Obviously, the John C. Calhoun statue is coming down after the unanimous vote by Charleston City Council last night.
Now, wonderful.
Let me ask you this. What was running through your mind last night?
Well, I think that we all were confident that the vote was not going to be close at all. I thought maybe one or two folks may vote against it, but as the night went on and conversations were being had and comments were being made, I was pretty confident we were going to have a unanimous vote. And I think that's very important. It's a very important statement by council to support the mayor on this resolution. I think it sends a very strong message to the community that we were united in supporting this resolution to bring the statute down. I just think that is just critical that we had that available and made that statement to the community last night.
And I know that we are actually in the 10th hour trying to bring the statue down off the church, and I'm sitting right nearby the statue. But yes. Were you all as city council ever given a blueprint for how the statue should come down?
The only thing that we were aware was that we were making sure that we had made contact and we're going to engage a very qualified company to do it. They had the right technical ability and physical ability to have it done, to take it down with care, because we knew that at some point the statue was going to end up at another location. So those were the things that we were that I was made aware of. I can't speak for my other council members, but I knew that we were taking good care and due diligence in bringing the statute down.
And let me go back to a couple of years ago, because I know that you all wanted to have like some sort of plaque to describe the history of the John C. Calhoun monument. Where did that discussion fall off at?
You know, I think it was in 2017, if I remember correctly, that and I can't remember where the push came from, either the History Commission, I think but in conversation we had with folks dealing with wanting to put a plaque up there, and that stalled on a variety of reasons. And
what reasons were you given?
Well, there were some folks who thought that was inadequate, having a plaque at some of these monuments, particularly John C. Calhoun Monument, was just not going to be adequate enough, that the statue should have come down. Then there were those who were just completely opposed to any idea of changing anything at all, even adding the plaque. So there were those who, on one side, it wasn't enough. There's another side saying why we're doing it. And then those of us who were supporting it realized we didn't have the votes. And instead of rejecting it, I think we just agreed to defer it. And it ended in deferred limbo.
And you obviously talked about the comments you all got during the city council meeting last night. Why didn't city council, in your mind, vote to allow the citizens of Charleston to vote on this instead?
We're entrusted in the role of being responsible for the care of items that are in our possession, and clearly the monument was in our possession. I would have taken that as a way of ducking our responsibility, quite frankly. We're elected officials. We're here to vote on money matters. You know that, on setting the budget, expending those funds, making decisions. I think in my tenure, we had one referendum on affordable housing, the $20 million bond, which we had to bring that in front of the voters, the way that was structured. But that's our job, and that's why we're elected. We're elected as stewards. We listen to our constituents. I know I listen to my constituents. As you know, I have regular monthly meetings, coffee and conversation with Peter. so I can get feedback from folks. I need to find what is going on in the district, what's on their minds, what is the pulse of folks out there. This is a representative democracy, and we're up for re-election every 4 years. Our job is to reach out, talk to folks, get from them what they're looking for. That's our job. I'm not going to punt this down the road. I'm here. I listen to my folks. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
And with the removal of the statue, Peter, who's actually going to pay for it? Will it be the taxpayers?
The city, yes, the city. Well, the city, the taxpayers will be responsible. I mean, it's public funds. Yes.
And I know, obviously, you are one of the top attorneys here in Charleston.
Thank you.
But
you broadcast that widely and regularly. Thank you.
Bring you some more business, I guess. But how many lawsuits do you foresee the city going to be receiving for this, though?
I'm sorry, ask that one more time.
Yeah, but with the removal of the statue, how many lawsuits do you foresee the city receiving?
I don't think any. There was some talk about maybe the Attorney General issuing an opinion from his office. That did not happen. Certainly he could issue an opinion later and say that we didn't do that. But this was widely publicized. The mayor said that he had contacted the governor's office and told the governor what was going to happen. This is no surprise on anybody. Certainly could some citizen come around and issue a lawsuit. It costs $150 to file a lawsuit. I'm not sure what grounds they would pursue. The city was given the statute. We know that in 1898 by that minutes from the city council meeting. We owned it. It's our responsibility to handle it. The Washington Light Infantry publicly came out and said they weren't going to fuss or do anything to delay it. I don't know who else would have something to say about it. Now, whether or not the Heritage Act applies or not, that would fall under the responsibility of the AG's office. And I would have suspected if they thought they had good legal grounds to stop it, they would have filed a lawsuit, gone to court to try to obtain a temporary restraining order to have an injunction issued against the city for taking it down. That did not happen. So here we proceed. Now, I think we'll file a lawsuit and then try to make us put the statute back up. I just don't think that's going to take place. I really don't.
And what will be the relationship with the Washington Infantry after this?
I think we have a good relationship with them now. I want to make sure that we continue to have a wonderful relationship with them going on. They are very much engaged in my involvement with them on promoting the city's involvement and participation in the American Revolution, which has just been underrepresented throughout our history. It's been overshadowed. Charleston's participation in the American Revolution contributed to the formation of this country. And that has not been spelt out enough. And I give them a lot of credit for helping us tell that story and keeping that alive. We have Victory Day in December that they celebrate every year. I want to help them promote that more. I want them to have the ability to maybe declare that as a city holiday. We need to be emphasizing the role that the city of Charleston played in the American Revolution. When we did the 350 proclamation in April of this year, the mayor and I were down at the Exchange Building. I'm a lifelong resident of Charleston. I've visited the Exchange Building several times. I love that building. But there's so much history in the Exchange Building that ties into what you just asked me about the Washington Light Infantry. The Exchange Building is one of 4 buildings still in existence, still standing in the United States, in which the Declaration of Independence was read. That's important information for us to know, that we are one of 4 of the original 13 colonies that have a building in which the Declaration was read. There's a document on the 50th anniversary of the issuance of the Declaration of Independence. It was commissioned for the Declaration of Independence to be reprinted. We have one of those reprinted 50-year anniversary Declaration of Independence at the Exchange Building. That's just wonderful information for us to have. That's part of our history. That's our involvement with that. The American Revolution ended when the British troops left Charleston. It was 15,000 folks who left in December. I forgot the year. But that is a part of our history, and that's something that WLI has emphasized. And I want to be very supportive of them in helping tell that narrative, helping project that story for us to be made aware of.
And you know, most museums and academic institutions may or may not want the John C. Calhoun statue. What value would this particular statue that is, add to their mission?
What would it add, you think?
Yes, sir.
I think that, and this is sort of in response, I think, to a lot of folks who said we were writing history, we were moving history. I think that's the furthest thing from my consideration on voting to take the statue down. John C. Calhoun was a prominent figure in Charleston, South Carolina, and national history. His story needs to be told. I mean, he is who he was. He was, as you know, the nullifier. He proposed this idea that states could nullify actions on the federal government. His words were used to help South Carolina decide to secede from the Union. We need to be telling that narrative. That's historical context that needs to be told. Of course, the things that he did, I mean, he was a white supremacist. I mean, in the fullest sense of the definition, he was a white supremacist. That part of the story needs to be told. The fact that citizens in the city of Charleston and in South Carolina thought so highly of him that they raised money to erect not one but two statues is part of the narrative that needs to be told. Why did they feel that way? What were they trying to promote? That's history. We need to tell that story, the story of who he really was, and the city's, in the context of the city's citizens wanting to memorialize his presence and activities in the 19th century.
Now, let me ask you this too, Peter. How much history will be removed from Charleston after this statue has been taken down?
I don't know the answer to that question. I think that we have to tread very carefully, and I think that the concerns of citizens are valid, that we're not are going to redo history. That's something we can't do. Charleston's history is Charleston's history. Part of my involvement in motivation on the 350 Commission was to tell the full story of Charleston. You and I have had this conversation before, Quintin, that we need to explain and tell to our young people the full, complete, rich history of Charleston, and Charleston's involvement with slavery, Charleston's involvement in the American Revolution, Charleston's involvement in the Civil War, Charleston's involvement with the small little town in France after the World War II to help them get back on their feet. There's so much, and I'm glossing over the highlights, but there's so much history. There's so much history in Charleston that we need to tell. It has contributed to who we are as a people. Charlestonians are Charlestonians for a reason. I mean, we love this city. We are passionate about the city. People who were not even born here, but who adopted Charleston as their home. I guess there's something in the pluff mud or the salt air, but boy, you just become in love with this community. And it's her people, it's her places, it's the customs around here. I can't put my finger on it and say it's just one particular thing. That we love our city and we want to preserve our history. We want to protect our history, but we want to tell the history completely and thoroughly. So I think we will become so much more enriched when we finally achieve that goal.
Now, how do you hope to preserve this history and still be able to not lose tourism?
I'm sorry, that was the last part?
Yeah, how do you hope to preserve history but not lose tourism?
Not lose, I'm not sure that last.
Yeah, well, are you all afraid that you might lose tourism?
Oh, tourism. No, I think, listen, I haven't seen the surveys, and maybe Ms. Helen Hill can help us with this part of it. What draws people to Charleston? It's the climate has a lot to do with it. It's very accommodating, except in August. It gets hot, as you know what, in August. The climate has a lot to do with it. It's the people here and people who interact with Charlestonians always walk away with a very favorable response. It's our restaurants, it's our shops, it's our beaches. Charleston's easy to get around with. I think people are coming here for a variety of reasons. It's not just to look at a monument. I mean, I don't think someone goes and says, oh, I want to come to Charleston just to look at a monument. I don't think that's what they do. I think they are intrigued by going maybe to Fort Sumter, looking at the houses we have here, the architect, some of the interesting buildings we have around here, and knowing and hearing the history. And hearing, we have a wonderful cadre of storytellers in Charleston. They do a really nice job of telling the story. We just want to promote that and maybe further and more detailed and a full, complete, accurate story. We want to make sure that story is out there completely to our tourism visitors, and to our students in school, and to the average citizen on the street. They need to hear the full story, have access to the full story of Charleston.
Now that this statue is coming down, Peter, what else can the citizens, and particularly minority people, expect from the city as far as affordable housing, education, equity?
Yes. Well, and you know, the mayor created that special commission that was part of the apology that we passed a couple of years ago. And we got 2 council members who are going to be fully engaged, and them Jason Saccharin and Dudley Gregory. And I can tell you, I've known Dudley since being on council, and he is passionate and he is motivated. And he's strong on doing this. He's got a partner with him, with Jason Saccharin, to work on that. I think that's their marching orders, is to address these things. And I mentioned this last night. You know, we've spent so much time fussing about this statute, and that we shouldn't have. That we should be fussing about affordable housing, economic development, educational opportunities, criminal justice reform. Those are the things that we need to be fussing about. Those are the things we need to be spending our energy on. And I think that this is a springboard to getting us into that direction, into that narrative.
Now that the statue's coming down, what will replace it?
Well, we know one thing for sure: that chunk of land, that dirt, belongs to the Washington Light Infantry. It's going to be their call as to what they replace there, if anything. May not place anything there. I don't know what their thought process is going to be after that. So they are going to have the decision on what they want to do with that tract of land. Now, Robert Rosen and Bernie Powers wrote that wonderful op-ed piece. I fully endorse some kind of monument or monuments to be placed over at the White Point Gardens. I think we need to be focusing on that. More monuments are important. That goes back to our conversation of the full history, the total history of Charleston and South Carolina. We've got an opportunity to highlight some of those folks, an opportunity to highlight some of the events that occurred. Yes, I think we need to be doing that more often. So let's get, that's another push.
And procurement. Do you have any procurement questions when it comes to this whole vote that you all took last night?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any procurement questions when it comes to what happened last night as far as voting?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
I mean, as far as procurement, you know, did you all talk? Did the mayor talk with you all before this was, you know?
Oh yeah, I had numerous conversations with the mayor about this. I had numerous conversations with several of my colleagues about this. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of conversation going on with us, and the mayor seized the opportunity to grab our support on this, and I think that was, you saw that was universal. That was universal last week when we went to the press conference a week ago, and that was universal last night on our vote.
Well, Peter Shahid, thank you so much for your time, and again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Always a pleasure, and thanks. I'm glad to be able to do it this time from a kind of platform. So thanks for the opportunity to chat with you.
You're welcome. I'll be here anytime.